be effectively removed from the cells and from the entire body. Some of that waste, the gaseous waste, it is passed on by the respiratory system. It is traveled to the lungs, and then through lungs it is exhaled out of the body, mainly the carbon dioxide. But the other type of waste, the other type of metabolic waste, it requires a specialized organ system, that is the excretory organ system, mainly the organs of kidneys, to filter that out from the blood. So the main function of the excretory system or of our kidneys is, first is the waste removal, that is excretion. So excretion is the biological elimination of the metabolic waste products. And the ultimate goal is to reach the homeostasis, or to achieve the homeostasis, to be in homeostasis. Now what is this homeostasis? Homeostasis is a process, or it's a condition by which the body tries to maintain its internal environment as constant. So body tries to stabilize or to make constant the internal environment, even though the external environment is changing. So external environment keeps on changing. There are various other factors that in the external environment, when they change, because of that change, our the internal stability of the body should not get compromised. So because of that, we have this process of homeostasis, which enables us to balance or to make a constant internal environment in the body. Then there is osmoregulation, that is making a balance of the amount of water that is there in the blood and the inorganic ions. And ultimately, the acid-base balance, that is maintaining the precise pH of the blood. Maintaining the precise pH of the blood. Now, so these are the four essential fundamental functions of the excretion. Because why excretion is important? What is the significance of excretion? So that is the answer. That is getting into the state of homeostasis, ensuring osmoregulation and the acid-base balance, along with removing the harmful metabolic waste. Now, when we talk about this harmful metabolic waste, so not in all the organisms we have same type of waste. Different invertebrates, they have different types of metabolic waste. So the fishes, for example, or the marine creatures, their main waste product is the ammonia. Their main waste product is ammonia, and therefore they are known as ammonotelism. And removing this ammonia is known as ammonotelism. And ammonia is very highly toxic. And the method of excretion is by simple diffusion. That is, it requires a very high volume of water. So fishes, they live in water. Outside the body of the fish, the concentration of ammonia is less. Inside the body of fish, the concentration of ammonia is more. So then, by the process of simple diffusion, the waste product, that is ammonia, which is highly toxic, it gets eliminated, or it starts to move out of the fish's body. Then the second type of waste product is the urea. And in the ureotelism, that is mainly in the mammals. So this is observed in mammals, including humans. So mammals, including humans, the main metabolic waste that they have to dump off, or that they have to remove from the body, is urea. And urea, even though it is toxic, but it is somewhat less toxic as compared to ammonia. So its toxicity is moderate in relation to ammonia. And the method, first the liver comes into picture. Liver converts ammonia into urea. So the initial metabolic waste is ammonia. It is converted into urea in the liver. And then that ammonia, which is in the blood, so then the blood is filtered out. And from that blood, we remove the urea. So then kidneys filter the blood, and we get urea, as that is the main constituent of the urine. So word urine also comes from the word urea. Then we have the urocotelism, that is those organisms or those invertebrates in which we have uric acid. The waste product is the uric acid, and this is found in birds. So in fishes, we have ammonia. In mammals, including humans, we have the urea. And in the birds, we have uric acid. Now, uric acid, when we compare it with the ammonia and urea, it is less toxic. It is less toxic, and that uric acid is discharged from the bird's body in the form of pellets and paste, because removing of the uric acid from the body does not require a lot of water. So there is a minimal loss of water. So the highest amount of water is required to remove the ammonia, then urea, because in our urine the majority of the component is mainly it's either water and the urine, the urea. And in birds we have uric acid. Now removal of uric acid does not require a greater amount of water, so that helps in water conservation. Then the main organ, the main human organ that is associated with the filtering of the blood or for the urine formation, the main excretory organ is the kidney. And kidney is a small bean-shaped organ. So it's a bean-shaped organ, and it has a length of about 10 to 12 centimeter, and it weighs around 150 grams. Approximately, if we take average, the weight is 150 grams. And when we look at the structure of kidneys, we see two distinct parts. That is the outer part, which is the outer zone, which is known as the cortex, and the inner part, the middle part, which is known as the medulla. So these pyramids, so these triangular-like structures, they are the medulla of the kidney. And the main job of kidney is to filter out the blood. But what constitutes a kidney? Okay, kidneys are made up of very small, microscopic, structurally and fundamental units that are known as the nephrons. So in simple words, nephrons, a nephron is the structural and functional unit of kidney. The structural and functional unit of kidney is known as nephrons. And if we look at the structure of a nephron, we have different components. That is, first we have is the Malpighian body, which is made up of glomerulus and the Bowman's capsule. The Bowman's capsule. So this outer layer is the Bowman's capsule, and inside that we have a dense network of tubes and sacs that is known as the glomerulus. And together this entire structure is known as the Malpighian body. Then, so blood vessels, they come and they enter into this Malpighian body, and then this is the blood vessel that has come out. Now the blood that is there, the blood that enters this Malpighian body is filtered out, and the filtrate then enters into the proximal convoluted tubule, a duct that is known as PCT. Then this PCT connects, or it forms the loop of Henle. It forms the Henle's loop or the loop of Henle. It has a descending part as well as an ascending part. And then it ultimately goes to the distal convoluted tubule. This is the DCT. A lot of reabsorption from the filtrate into the blood happens in these PCT, DCT and the Henle's loop. And finally we have the collecting duct. So the urine that is formed, the filtrate, the urine that is formed, it is ultimately dumped into the collecting duct, and the collecting ducts of many nephrons, they collect the urine, they merge to form a single collecting duct, and that ultimately drains into ureter. Now, and the ureter then fills up the urinary bladder, and through urinary bladder we expel out the urine. Now let's look at the process by which this urine formation takes place. That is the various phases. It starts with the filtration phase. It starts with the phase 1, filtration. That is also known as the ultrafiltration. So the blood vessels, they enter into the Malpighian structure or into the Malpighian body. And here we have the glomerulus, and in the glomerulus we have 3 layers of podocytes, which are specialized cells. These are like slit pores. When the blood passes through them, so it gets filtered. Okay, the blood gets filtered, so the proteins are retained and the plasma passes through. This is also known as the glomerular filtration rate. Glomerular filtration. This is known as glomerular filtration. And its rate is known as the GFR. So the GFR is 125 ml of blood is filtered every minute. So that means daily volume will be 180 liters of blood is filtered by kidneys. But in our body, we have only 5.5 or 6 liters of blood. That means most of the substance that has been removed from the blood, the amount of water that has to be reabsorbed. So after this rapid filtration, after this ultrafiltration, we have the filtrate. We have the filtrate that passes into the ducts, that is the PCT. Now it is the PCT, the DCT and the loop of Henle where all the absorptions and reabsorption and secretion, all that stuff takes place. That is the second part of the urine formation. So we have this PCT which absorbs the essential nutrients and the electrolytes. Because in the filtrate we have a lot of, this is the filtrate. We have a lot of amount of water in this filtrate. We also have a lot of essential minerals, essential nutrients, electrolytes that are present in this filtrate. And that this stuff from the filtrate, majority of the stuff from the filtrate has to be reabsorbed by the blood. So most of this stuff, that is the 99% of the water, the glucose, amino acids, excess of water, it is reabsorbed. So around it we have the blood vessels, and in these blood vessels, by the process of diffusion, most of the stuff is reabsorbed, and some of the excess stuff is then from the blood, it is again dumped into the, so suppose if we have excess of H plus ions, that is the blood is very acidic, because when there is excess of H plus ions, that means the blood is acidic. So then these H plus ions are also dumped into the filtrate. A lot of K plus ions, those are also dumped into the filtrate. Okay. If body requires certain amount of water, certain amount of ammonia, a bit of ammonia, that has to be converted into urea, because ammonia gets absorbed and this ammonia later on gets converted into urea in the liver. So this secretion, this absorption, all this cycle or this process takes place, and this is the second part of the urine formation. Now that urine formation, that formed urine, by the help of the collecting duct, okay, by the help of collecting duct, it passes through the ureter and it collects into the urinary bladder. And time to time, when the bladder gets filled up, we excrete out, or we urine out, or we pass out the urine. Now, we have to also understand the regulation of the kidney function, that is the how different parts of the body, okay, they regulate the function of the kidneys. And mostly this is important because it helps to balance the blood volume and the blood pressure. Okay, they help to regulate the blood volume as well as the blood pressure. So we have 3 different organs that are involved here, starting with the brain. So not the brain exactly, we have the hypothalamus. Now, we have certain conditions, like if we have low blood volume, okay, if the blood volume or the blood pressure, it comes down. If we have a low blood volume, if we have low blood pressure, then this hypothalamus that is there, it stimulates the release of a hormone that is known as ADH. It stimulates the release of hormone, the vasopressin hormone, that is also known as the ADH or the antidiuretic hormone. Okay, and this antidiuretic hormone or the ADH is secreted by the pituitary gland, and it is the hypothalamus which stimulates the pituitary gland to release the ADH. Now the main function of this ADH is to increase the water reabsorption. Increase the water reabsorption. So when when the water reabsorption it increases, that means the water is retained, and as a result the blood volume which was down, it will then go up. So it increases the blood volume, and when the blood volume increases, then the blood pressure also improves or it increases. Then the second function we have is of the kidney or the juxtaglomerular. This is known as the juxtaglomerular complex or the juxtaglomerular cells. These are essentially the kidney cells. So what does the kidney cells do here to regulate this entire volume of blood and the blood pressure? So in kidney, suppose we have low blood pressure. During low blood pressure or during low blood volume, we have the kidneys that secrete or that release the hormone that is known as renin. The kidneys secrete renin, which is an enzyme and a hormone. This renin converts angiotensin. So kidney release the renin. What does this renin does? It converts the angiotensinogen. Angiotensinogen is a protein. The renin converts this angiotensinogen into angiotensin. It converts angiotensinogen into angiotensin. And this complex of renin and angiotensin, and mainly the angiotensin, it increases the blood pressure. It increases the blood pressure. Why? Because it constricts the blood vessels and also helps in the water reabsorption. So whenever the amount or the volume of blood it comes down, the amount of water in the blood comes down, or the blood pressure falls, because when there is less amount of or the less volume of blood, then there will be low BP. Whenever we have a situation like this, both the hypothalamus and the kidney secretions, they come into function. But what if the blood pressure is too high? What if the blood pressure becomes too high? For that, we have the third organ here, that is the heart. Now the walls of the heart, they release a hormone that is known as ANF or the atrial natriuretic hormone. This is known as the atrial natriuretic factor. That is the ANF. Now what does this ANF does? This ANF inhibits the release of renin from the kidneys. This ANF, it inhibits the release of renin from the kidneys. So directly it is making an impact on the kidney, and then the kidney stops to produce renin. Then if the renin production is stopped, then this angiotensin is not produced and the BP is not increased. That is why the ANF ultimately it decreases the blood pressure. So these three systems, the hypothalamus, the heart and the kidney, these three organs, okay, they work together. They work as a team in tandem to regulate the blood volume as well as the blood pressure. And finally, the micturition, that is the release reflex. So the urine that has been formed in the body, okay, that is collected via the ureter into a bag or in a sac called the urinary bladder. The urine is collected into urinary bladder. You can think of it as a bag. Now, from this bag, how the urine is released, that is, when the urine is present, in the urinary bladder or in this bag. So the walls of the urinary bladder, they stretch. The walls of the urinary bladder, they stretch. And this stretching of the bladder walls, it is the trigger. Okay? It is a trigger to the brain. Okay? So it's a sensory neuron which connects the bladder with the brain, and the trigger is that stretching of the bladder walls. Now when the brain detects that the bladder walls are stretched, then the brain, it sends a signal via the motor neuron to the sphincter, to the urinary sphincter. Now sphincter is a round muscle. It's a circular or round muscle. And the sphincter muscle, then it relaxes. And when this sphincter muscle relaxes, the urine, it is passed out of the body. So this CNS coordinates the smooth muscle contraction and the relaxation of the sphincter. And when the sphincter, the urethral sphincter, the urinary sphincter, when it is relaxed, then the bladder empties out of the urine moves out and the bladder gets emptied. Now some important statistics or facts about the urine is that the amount of urine that on an average a human produces is approximately 1 to 1.5 liters per day. And if we talk about the pH of the urine, so the pH of the blood is 7.4, that is slightly alkaline. But please note that the pH of urine is not alkaline, it is acidic. And pH of the urine should remain slightly acidic. So pH 7 is the neutral, and if we have pH 6, that means the urine is acidic. And if we talk about the waste disposal, that waste that we have thrown out of the body, so 25 to 30 gram of urea is thrown out of the body per day, and the color of the urine is light yellow, or we can say it pale yellow in color. Okay? The pale yellow is the